While the Ravens have soared high since that team could not have gotten off to a better start.
You'll be on this journey with me.
Hey guys, now joined inside Nats Park.
Okay, so Patrick Queen has just become the latest Baltimore Raven to head to a division rival this offseason. And one thing that no one seems to be discussing now that Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry are teammates together. Those two things and more coming up in this episode, which is brought to you by my friends at BetUS. And with that, welcome into the channel. I'm Bobby Trosset, and as always, this is where I bring you Baltimore sports and beyond. Before we get to King Henry, this just came down the timeline a little over an hour ago at the time of this taping, which is right around 3 o'clock on Tuesday, March 12th. Ravens free agent linebacker Patrick Queen told Marcus Spears that he plans on signing a 3-year, $41 million contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Geno Stone on day one of the legal tampering period heads to Cincinnati, and now PQ, two homegrown Ravens, are now on other teams in division. PQ's heading to Pittsburgh, Geno to Cincinnati. Oh my, oh my. There's been plenty of widespread reaction to this move, including internally. Marlon Humphrey tweeting out a short while ago, the combination of this high altitude atmosphere I'm in and what PQ just did has my chest hurting. Look, I'm sure many of you agree, but the bottom line is he wasn't going to stay in Baltimore. He couldn't stay in Baltimore. The Ravens couldn't keep him around based on the way that he played the last couple seasons and the way that really Roquan Smith and his presence, and the two of them, what they were able to do in the middle part of Baltimore's defense. We knew this wasn't going to happen. Carolina made a push, according to reports earlier today, but PQ, as Rod Woodson did and many others have done, is heading to the dark side. PQ will be a Pittsburgh Steeler, and he will see the Ravens twice a year as the opposition, as will Geno Stone. Here's some of the other moves made, too, along the lines of opponents and division rivals. Saquon went from New York to Philadelphia, as we know. PQ, Baltimore to Pittsburgh. Aaron Jones went from Green Bay to Minnesota. And then, of course, the aforementioned Geno Stone from Baltimore to Cincinnati. This does have an effect on the Ravens draft for next year, and Nick Cordy is all over it as usual. This is his forte. So the higher 2025 compensatory pick some Ravens fans have been looking for has arrived. It's going to be a 4th rounder on the board for Baltimore in 2025, which replaces a 7th rounder for Gus Edwards leaving for the Los Angeles Chargers, which happened earlier in the week. So it's not all negative. But obviously in the here and now, you're thinking, oh, wow, like PQ's a Pittsburgh Steeler now. It's kind of hard to believe, kind of hard to fathom, but that is the reality right now. The Ravens will be awarded for that, and they will have a slew of compensatory draft selections coming up in the 2025 draft next April. But for now, prepare to see PQ in Pittsburgh, lacing it up for Mike Tomlin and company, who, by the way, it wasn't all that long ago this season that PQ didn't mince words whatsoever in terms of how he felt about Mike Tomlin and an interaction on the field that they had his rookie year. Tomlin saying something along the lines of talking junk, saying that he's not a Raven. Well, unfortunately, if you can't beat him, join him. I think PQ finished his career just 1-7 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'd imagine that leaves a little bit of a sour taste in his mouth, but he's going to have to move forward. Money talks. It's a great contract for PQ. Not quite at the Roquan level in terms of average annual value, but one that he certainly is deserving of, and I wish him the best. And again, I don't feel the need. I know you guys will because you're diehard fans, but I don't feel the need to say, you wish the worst upon a guy. Like, hey, all power to you. You got your second deal in the NFL. A small percentage of players in the NFL reach second deals. So big congratulations are in order for Patrick Queen. Now, as we learned live earlier today when Sarah and I were doing our lunch hour live stream, Derrick Henry is now a Baltimore Raven. We know that there were plenty of moves and conversation and buzz and happenings prior to the November 1st trade deadline. That, however many months later, what are we? December, January, February, March, 4 months later, Derrick Henry is set to become a Baltimore Raven as soon as the new league year begins tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's a 2-year, $16 million deal. It's worth up to $20 million with incentives, and $9 million is guaranteed in year one. Remember, some of the numbers that were floating around there in terms of overall projections, value-wise, was at 6.5 entering the day. The Ravens went and got their guy, and they paid up for him. And now he joins a backfield that probably is the most dynamic one in all of the NFL, with Lamar Jackson, with Keaton Mitchell, with Justin Hill, and perhaps Justice Hill, and perhaps a day 2 running back that they'll pick up if they don't re-sign J.K. Dobbins coming up next month on the draft. Now, I was just curious because of how dominant this backfield is and because of who Derrick Henry is as a player. Yes, he is 30. Yes, he has a ton of miles on his tires. But I was wondering where his MVP odds for the 2024 season would be according to BetUS. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Jackson lead the way as you'd expect. CJ Stroud up there as well. Look, Derrick's a long shot. You got to go all the way down to plus 2,500. Plus 25,000 to be the league MVP. And again, this is a long shot, but why not have a little bit of fun? I mean, you can risk 25 to win $6,200, 6,250 to be exact. Yeah, let's have a little bit of fun there. And why not? I mean, you never know in in Todd Monken's offense, you never know. So take a look. And here's a quick message from this episode's sponsor.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
So there's a link that I have included in the description of this video below. They're going to give you a 125% bonus, not only on your first deposit, but on your first 3 deposits up to $2,500 if you use the promo code JOIN125. So on top of that, they're going to give you 10% gambler's insurance for your net losses if you are active every 6 months. All that information is included in the description of this video below. And a special thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the channel, not only all football season long, but now into the offseason as well. The most rushing yards since 2018. That number is owned by Derrick Henry with over 8,200. The most rushing yards by a quarterback since 2018 is owned by Lamar Jackson with over 5,200. And now these two are teammates together in the backfield. Here is the topic. Here is what I'm getting at with the title of this video. What no one seems to be discussing, and shout out Truth Bearer, one of our subscribers who was tuning into the live stream and kind of got me thinking about this. And I've been thinking about it ever since. Think about what Derrick Henry's sheer presence alone means for Lamar Jackson's longevity, means for Lamar Jackson's overall health, right? His durability, his usage, the way Todd Monken schemes things up. He no longer needs to be the guy. Now, he proved last year that he understands that at this point in his career and with the playmaking ability that they invested in around him. But now that Derrick and his presence and his impact and his explosiveness and his size, right, and the way that defenses have to account for him, right, everybody's got to be on task. Everybody's got to be on their toes. And I think over time, Lamar Jackson's longevity will be a major beneficiary. Major. Just due to the sheer presence alone of one Derrick Henry. Ian put together 3 different categories here in terms of yards after contact, which I felt was really interesting. We'll go big screen for this. So Derrick Henry yards after contact per carry from 2023 through 2020 was top 10 all 4 years, as high as 4th in 2022 with 3.6 yards after carry. I'm sorry, as high as, I guess like statistically speaking, as high as 4th. But anyway, so point being, the guy's an absolute dog in terms of yards after contact per carry. The Titans' yards before contact per carry, you see, are as follows. And look at where the Ravens' yards before contact per carry is. The point is, The Ravens are already a dominant rushing attack. The Ravens already have depth. The Ravens already have the greatest dual threat quarterback in the history of the game in their backfield. You now add Derrick into the equation, and it gives you a new layer, a new wrinkle, a new element of speed, explosiveness, right? Like this is just mm, 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 mm. This to me was something that the Ravens had to do. Because while I think they can find a solid day 2 running back who can come in and compete and can come in and make an immediate impact in the draft next April, nobody can quite give you what Derrick Henry can. Even at this stage in his career, even at this age, even with the amount of miles that he has on him. Derrick Henry is one of those missing pieces to Baltimore's offensive puzzle, much like a big body offensive wide receiver is. Perhaps they go after that person, that player in the draft. Derrick puts so much stress on opposing defenses. I can't wait to discuss with Todd Monken what he has schemed up, right? Because clearly he is going to have an immense amount of opportunities the way that he decides to employ Derrick Henry. The Ravens now have 2 running backs who accounted for 4 of the fastest speeds at the position last season. Jonas Schaefer tallied these up, and who says Derrick Henry's over the hill? He clocked in at 21.68 miles an hour against the Jaguars. And in London, against the Ravens at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 20.99 miles an hour he clocked at. Keaton Mitchell, we know, was right in that category as well. Also hit the 20.99 miles an hour mark against the Seahawks, and then against the Browns, just a hair below that at 20.92. Now, the difference is force, brute, right? All of these different traits and characteristics that come with the different style running backs they are. How about in the weight class? Derrick weighs in at 245 pounds, whereas Keaton Mitchell's 190. This is going to give you that different blend, right? That home run hitter. Both of them are home run hitters in their own right, but they're just different style running backs. And that kind of blend, that variety, I'm telling you, this just makes the Ravens that much more undefendable offensively speaking. They've still got more work to do in terms of cultivating and developing and retooling their offensive line. And they still got to go find that day 2 running back if they're not bringing Dobbins back on a prove-it deal for 1 year. And yeah, they probably need to bring in that big body rookie wide receiver. But man, their skill positions are through the roof right now. Through the roof. Lamar at quarterback. Derrick Henry in the backfield. Not to mention Keaton Mitchell and Justice Hill. Zay Flowers outside. Perhaps Rashad Bateman in the slot, and Mark Andrews, as we know. Again, not even including Isaiah Likely. This PFF graphic can't fit all the playmaking ability that they have right now, that John Harbaugh has at his arsenal. And think about this, Mina Kimes. Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell is the thunderest, lightningest thunder and lightning pairing one could conceive of. That's quite the image. What a visual. But that's a 1-2 punch that's unique. That's a 1-2 punch that's not exactly common as you look around the league. Matter of fact, Coach Prime, he thinks this wouldn't have happened in the NBA. Derrick Henry with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, Lord have mercy on the rest of the league because it's a wrap. The NBA would have blocked this move. Wow, this is epic, but I hate the way we've allowed the running back position to be devalued. Hashtag Coach Prime. That from a former Raven. That from the head coach of the CU Buffs out there in Colorado. So everybody's taking notice to this. Everybody, for the most part, thinks, as they should, that this was a move that the Ravens should have invested in, were smart and wise to invest in, and now we get to see if that ends up being true. Derrick Henry is a Baltimore Raven. They are stacked. They have more work to do. But the bottom line is this pays major dividends for Lamar Jackson's longevity, for his future, and ultimately for the Ravens' championship aspirations. because while they can't sit here and make excuses in terms of not being able to run the ball in an AFC championship game, right, and not even setting their players up for success in that category, they now have a guy who you simply cannot ignore, and that to me is undisputable. They have the king rusher. They have an all-time rusher at the quarterback position. They've got layer after layer, and they've got everything they need to go and compete and try and take down the dynasty of this era, of this decade, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. So as always, I appreciate you guys for dropping by the channel. Please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the Vault and right here to the Bobby Baltimore YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Go check out all my different opportunities for you below, including the folks at BetUS, what they have running for you, and patreon.com/Bobby Trosset if you're interested in supporting me on the back end here this offseason. So plenty more coming up this week in terms of free agency. I appreciate you guys for being so attentive, for being so locked in this week, and I'll talk to you soon.